What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Bruce, this is What's Popping, and in today's video I'm going to show all of you Game of Thrones collectors how you can complete your Direwolf collection by creating some custom Funko Pops. That is right, guys, we are carrying on with our custom Funko Pop series right here on What's Popping, and in today's video we are focusing on Direwolves and, more importantly, Funko paint jobs. So in the last video I showed you guys how you can go about doing a head swap and changing out the bodies on different characters. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link to it up here. That is the first video in our series, and we're going to just keep going on making a ton of cool customs right here on the channel. But anyways, guys, let's get into today's video, which is looking at our Direwolves. Now, you guys will know, if you are Game of Thrones collectors, that Direwolves, they didn't make all of them. They made Ghost, they made Nymeria, and they made Grey Wind. The rest of the Direwolves were lost to the Game of Thrones Funko gods, and that leaves us up to our own devices as to how we are going to complete our Direwolf collection. So what I did was I bought up as many Ghost Funko Pops as I could. Let's have a look at Ghost first off so you can see what we are starting with and what we are looking at with our Funko Pops. And Ghost is a very simple Funko Pop. He is nicely done, but he is very versatile in terms of creating customs, and that is because anything that's a dog, anything that's a wolf, you are going to have a lot of leeway, as you will see in this video, to go ahead and create whatever you would like from this base. So we have our Ghost. That is our first Direwolf. That is Jon Snow's Direwolf, and that is one sorted. That doesn't need to be done. The next one in my collection is Nymeria, and I did actually manage to get hold of Nymeria. So here is a look at Ghost 2.0, if you want to call her that. And this is Nymeria in the same mold, the same pose as Ghost. So you can see what I'm talking about there with the versatility of this figure and what you can do in terms of creating your customs, and creating your custom Direwolves and filling out that Game of Thrones collection. So you will see she is in the exact same mold. The only difference on this pop is the paint job, and that is what has led a lot of custom Funko Pop makers to just take the inspiration from what they've done with Ghost, with Nymeria, and then with Grey Wind, and take that further and go ahead and create their own customs. So let's get straight into the video, and I'm going to show you guys how you can start making your custom Funko Pops. Now, first off, let's do Shaggy Dog, because Shaggy Dog is probably the easiest one to do, because he's basically a plain black dog with those green eyes, and you can add a little bit of detail at your own discretion. And what you will see here, what we're doing at the beginning, is really just trying to get a bit of the sheen off of the Funko figure. Funko do sort of finish their figures with a bit of a glossy finish that doesn't help so much with the paint. So when you're doing a new paint application, it's a good idea just to pop them in some lukewarm water, take a toothbrush, scrub it over, and you will actually feel a difference between one that has been scrubbed with a toothbrush versus one that hasn't. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. It's not, I think I did one or two customs without doing it. It didn't make a huge difference, but I found it that a little bit easier to do my paint job when we had that little bit of that gloss sort of taken off the figure. Then, guys, moving on from there, you're going to start painting your figure. And what's great about Shaggy Dog is that Shaggy Dog is just basically plain black. So you can go ahead and just dive in with that paint. Now, the paint that I used is a brand called Dala, and it works extremely well. I tried a few other brands of acrylic paint. It did not work well at all. This Dala paint dries really well, and what's really important about this Dala paint is it is incredibly smooth drying. So when you have your figure done, it actually looks sort of completed to the Funko to a level that I would aspire to something similar to a Funko standard. So that is very important in terms of the paint brand that you're using. And with Shaggy Dog, it's a great figure to start off with when you're learning how to do these paint jobs and how to do these paint applications, because as I say, there's not a ton of detail going on there, and you can use your own discretion with him as to how much detail you want to try and put in. There are, of course, no figures made for these Direwolves, and that is why we're making these customs, with the exception of Grey Wind, who is just too darn expensive for me to get hold of, so I did my own custom. That really leaves you a lot of leeway with how you're going to go about painting your figure. With Shaggy Dog, we just had a lot of fun as our first sort of custom. He's actually a fake figure as well. I'll be doing a video in the future talking about how you can avoid fake Funko Pops, but if you have picked up a fake and you want to do something with it, this is a great idea to use one of your fake Funko Pops for something. So anyways, guys, here we have Shaggy Dog, and he's just a lot of fun. I love this figure. I love he's got a special place in my heart as my first painted custom, which is really cool. And we just went with that black Dala paint. We covered him up with that. Went ahead then, did the green eyes afterwards, and then he's got that little muzzle. So we did the muzzle and a little bit of detailing down the front of his chest as well, just to give a little bit extra to the figure, which I think is really nice. It's really neat to have something, you know, a little bit further than just a plain black figure. I've seen a lot of plain black Shaggy Dog figures out there, and when you're looking for inspiration for these figures, guys, you can really go you know, to your own discretion. You can search the internet far and wide. You can use other people's customs that they've done as part of your inspiration. I used some of Jess Saley's customs as a bit of my inspiration, so shout out to you, Jess, who's a fellow customer out there in South Africa. But what I also did was I got as many pictures as I could of the characters, and with the direwolves, not all of them have a lot of scenes, so it can be a little bit tough. And let's move on then to Lady, who is sort of an accentuation of that point that I'm trying to make about how tough it can be to find the right pictures for the pop that you're doing. So Lady is, you know, she's a figure that doesn't require a lot more paint work, and that is because she is a predominantly white wolf. She has that little bit of grey on her as well, and thankfully Sophie Turner, who actually plays Sansa Stark in the series, went ahead and adopted Lady. So despite Lady not having a ton of screen time, there are quite a few pictures of the actress with Lady that I could use to draw inspiration for this figure, and I think she turned out pretty well in the end. We used again just that nice grey that we had mixed with those Dala paints, and did a nice paint up on the head. Went ahead and went through the chest and just used a few different stills from a combination of stills from the series, and then some that I could find from Sophie Turner's pictures with her pet dog that was of course Lady in the series. And with that, we just sort of went about going into putting as much detail as we could that we felt would make her as realistic as possible. What we then did was at the end with your eyes, we didn't have to do this with Shaggy Dog because he is of course a black figure, but we went ahead and just went with those eyes and put a bit of black fine liner around the outside, and I think it makes the eyes pop just that little bit more, which is really nice. And you would have noticed with Lady and with these other figures coming up, is that before you start your painting, you'll want to have some sort of idea of how you're going to go ahead and do that detailing and put together your paint job. So what we did was we took a pencil and just sort of, you know, you're going to play with it, you're going to tweak it as you go through your paint job and through your custom. But we just did a sort of an outline of where we think the paint should go, how it should look, and you're going to make mistakes, guys. That's going to happen during the custom process. You're going to paint somewhere where you think, oh, it doesn't look quite right. You go back, paint over it, clean up the paint somehow, and you'll go back and forth and have a bit of fun with it as you go about it. If you do get stuck somewhere, and the paint is dried, for example, sandpaper works pretty well if you're trying to get rid of the paint from these figures. I'll show you with some other customs later on how you can even use sandpaper to get the original paint job off some Funko figures. But here we have Lady, and guys, she is just, a lot of fun. I call all these figures a lot of fun. I say that I think in every single video when I'm looking at pops, and that is because that is what Funko brings out, I think, in all of us. It's just a sense of whimsy, the sense of fun. It's in the name, Funko, and that is the essence of these figures. And these figures are a lot of fun to collect to start off with, but when you're making them yourself, it adds an extra layer of fun, and something extra personalized in your collection, which I think is really, I was going to say a lot of fun again, but it really is. It's an overuse of the word fun, but I cannot exaggerate or overemphasize how cool it is to go through this process. And now I'm going to get on to my last two guys, the last two pops here that we did. Let's have a look at Summer, because Summer is just such a cool direwolf. One of Brand's direwolf throughout the series, and a pop that they really should have done. I don't understand why Funko didn't do these figures. There are so many Game of Thrones pops that they haven't done that they could have done, and thankfully through this custom series I'm going to show you guys how you can make a couple of the human characters as well in a future video. So if you're interested in checking that out, make sure you hang around. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, ring the notifications bell, do all of those things as we look through how you can create these figures. But here we have Summer, and Summer we did sort of a two-toning. We used three colors, but the two-toning was done on the head, and the head, the two-toning was done over the eyebrows and then over the rest of the head. So again, using pictures from the scenes, from as much Game of Thrones footage as we could find, creating that sort of similar pattern across Summer, and also using a bit of inspiration from some other custom creators out there as to how best to go about building your paint job, as it were. Most of these paint jobs are kind of built off of Nymeria, because Nymeria is the one pop that I have that Funko had done a paint job for, and you want to keep it kind of consistent with your figures. You want them to look like they belong together. So we based our basic premise for the paint job off of Nymeria, and that is where we used our stenciling and our pencil work to try and give that same sort of vibe, but then used our own artistic leeway in combination with the photos that we could find to try and put together a cool figure. And I think that Summer came out incredibly well. Beautiful Direwolf. We have, you know, the paint jobs on these are fairly simple. You're looking at three colors in this case. So if you're excluding the eyes, we had like a mocha color for the lower coat, which wasn't quite white, so we went ahead with that and made that sort of mocha color. We have the golden eyes, the dark brown over the eyebrows, and then that lighter brown covering the rest of the head. If you look around the back, we then used our own discretion and had a bit more fun with trying to create fur, because all of these ghost figures have the same mold, so they all have the same fur outlines and indentations. So when you go about painting them, you can really play around with how you want those indentations to play against your paint job. And what we did with Summer was, you know, do a bit of layering with the paint, try and get the texturing between the brown, the darker brown and the lighter brown, and I think it came out pretty well. We had some fun with the tail, we had some fun with the back of her coat, and the back of the figure is a good place to practice if you're not too sure how it's going to come out and how it's going to look. Because at the end of the day, you're going to spend most of your time looking at the front of the figure, unless you're going to put it back into a box and do a custom Funko Pop box, which could be a ton of fun as well to do. But again, I just want these looking really good from the front. It was, you know, my mom did a lot of the painting for it because she is super artsy and super artistic, and she is an absolute nut when it comes to perfection. And so she would make sure that, you know, that we got the texturing right and got that contrast right between the different layers, which I don't know if it, you know, it's looking at it now, it was totally worth it and so much fun. But at the time I was like, is it worth it? I'm not too sure. Looking at it now, you know, it's one of those things where what you put in, you get out with these customs. You can spend a day doing one custom and absolutely adore it in your collection, or you can go ahead and put together a custom in a couple of minutes by just swapping the heads on different figures. So, you know, the world of customing Funko Pops is wide open. There's a ton of leeway for you. There's room to flex your artistic muscles and really have so much fun exploring this world. Let's move on to the last figure, guys, and the last figure is Grey Wind. So there is, of course, a Funko Pop out there for Grey Wind. I just can't afford that thing. It is way too expensive. I don't think I'd even be able to find it in South Africa without much difficulty. So we went ahead and made our own, and I'm really happy with the result at the end of the day. Here you can see us going through the process of doing the paint application and all that kind of thing, but he was the first the first two-tone figure that we did, and I think he came out really well. I like the eyebrows, I like the golden eyes. We didn't do any changing of the inside of the ears, of that coloring there, but we did do a bit of two-toning, as you will see, with the sort of lighter grey and then the darker grey around the ears, and I think he came out really well. I love my Grey Wind figure, and it's really great to have all of these guys sitting together on a plinth as my whole Direwolf collection in front of my Game of Thrones dragons, which Game of Thrones did not make they did not skimp on the dragons. They made no concessions when it came to putting their dragons together. They definitely left the direwolves out, which is really surprising to me. I'm quite surprised that Funko didn't go ahead and make all of these direwolves as official figures, because they had the mold. All they had to do was do a different paint application. Right, guys, that about does it for today's video. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite custom was. Did you enjoy this video? Did you enjoy seeing the different paint jobs? Are you looking forward to future custom videos on the channel? I have quite a few still planned that we're going to be showing off. We're going to have some from The Walking Dead, some from The Witcher, some more from Game of Thrones. Definitely lots to check out, so let me know what you are most excited for, what you enjoyed the most out of these customs. Are you going to be doing any customs yourself back at home? Guys, I love chatting with you in the comments. As always, it is so much fun engaging with everyone out there in this awesome Funko community. And that is it for today, guys. So if you enjoyed it, do all the YouTube cliches, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see all of you guys in the next video.